Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I'm going to work on a Ryobi reel. It's one that I picked up at a local flea market and spent just a couple of dollars on it because it turns hard. It's very difficult to turn. As a matter of fact, I have to turn it like this. Well, the vendor wasn't asking much because the reel's not working, and I think I know what the answer is here, and we're going to go explore that today and rebuild it. But I see as I'm looking here that there's line that's tangled on the bottom here, and I'm noticing that it goes under the rotor. So this is obviously going to be wrapped around the rotor, causing this thing to turn very difficultly and causing it to perform poorly. The other thing is I'm not sure they knew what they had. So this is a Ryobi, and it's lost its badges. That's not unusual. It's a reel made in Japan in the 80s. And oftentimes it's confused. So here's one that looks almost identical to it, which is the Daiwa 4000C. And without the badge, if you just took a quick look at that, you'd wonder, you know, is this the Daiwa, right? Right down to the way that the handles are attached and everything. Well, it's not. It's a Ryobi. And we're going to go take this apart, and I'll show you how to tune one up if you have one. So I'm guessing this is a 4000 series. Without the badge, I really can't tell. So we're going to start by taking the spool off top. I'm going to clear that line jam before we do anything. Next off is the spool after you take the drag knob off. And then this one is held on by a nut, but you have to take the click rotor off before you can do that. That simply pulls up, and that's a rotor and a little shim washer that holds the click rotor on. And now we're down to the reel itself. And we're just going to want to get the right wrench to remove that. I have all my wrenches, but I don't have them in any particular sequence. So this looks like it's a 12mm nut. So if you'll pardon the interruption, we'll go ahead and get that. There it is. And this one comes off in the traditional sense. It's a counterclockwise to take it off. And I mention that because there's a lot of times that these reels have a reverse threaded nut, so you just want to make sure of that. You'll also notice I'm putting all my pieces and parts into a parts tray. That way I know where to go find them when I go to reassemble the reel. With that nut off, we can remove the rotor, and here we are. Here's the wrap as we were talking about. Pretty simple thing, but just enough that it's going to cause the problem inside, and this thing probably should turn pretty freely now. Within reason it does. The rotor here has got to be repaired. But short of that, let's go take a look at the insides of this reel. So this reel, unlike the Daiwa, has bushings, not bearings. So that's one of the reasons why it was a little less expensive. And in this case, we have a bushing up top here. It's got a little bit of dirt on it. Bushings usually are made of brass or some alloy. And they're not going to get clogged because it's just a solid piece of metal. But they do need to be kept clean, and that's what we'll do there. If we needed to remove that, we can take these two screws off and remove it. And from time to time, I've seen these where they are modified to replace the bushing with a bearing and kind of supercharge the reel. For a reel that's a $5 reel, to me, not that important to do it at the moment. It's more important to just make sure that it turns easily and get it back into fishing. Probably wind up giving it to somebody, but these are projects that I take on just to try and understand what's going on with the reel itself. So we'll take the handle off, and then we'll go access this side plate here, go figure out what's going on underneath, if anything. So go ahead and unscrew this. You can tell that that was a through handle because of the screw on this side. A long post that goes through the main gear. And I like to take that and put that right back into the handle so I don't lose it when I go to reinstall. And we've got bushings on both sides of this as well if I remember the reel. So we're going to go ahead and take the 3 side plate screws out. There were a lot of reels like this that came through in the 1980s. Daiwa had them. You could find the Pen 104, 105C series where they were made in Japan. Flugers, they were made in Japan. Zebco's had a line that came out of Japan at that time. They were only in the 70s and the 80s before production moved away from Japan for cost and moved on to China and other low-cost assembly areas. These are durable. There's not a lot of things that can break on these. It's a pretty simple technology, you know, they can last a lifetime if properly maintained. You saw that I took the 3 side plate screws out and laid them onto the table. I like to make sure when I take side plate screws out that they're all the same length. If they're not the same length, I like to note where the longer or the shorter screw came out of so that I properly set that when I go to reinstall. With the side plates off, we can open it up and we can see that nobody's paid attention to this reel in an awful long time. A lot of coagulated grease here, and that just is a matter of simply scraping and cleaning, so let's go ahead and do that. That'll be another reason why this reel was sluggish. So I'm going to take a little screwdriver and I'm just going to kind of get up what I can with the screwdriver blade. I'll just use a little paper towel to collect the overage there. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of a WD-40, which is a general purpose degreaser, solvent, penetrating oil, and that'll get the remaining muck and junk out of there. We'll clean up that side case, and then we can use the paper towel again to give it a little bit more shine. So right now I'm not paying much attention to the outside of this. I will at one point, but the inside of it I want to make sure is nice and clean and ready to go. These reels again are pretty sturdy because they just have bushings. In this case, you can see the side plate bushing here. It looks like some kind of a plastic, and I imagine that's what we'll see on the other side. So again, all of these are going into my parts basket. So let's take a look then at this this setup here. We have a cross-wind ring. We have a pin that holds it on. We'll go ahead and take that pin out. And that pin rides in a groove on both sides of the side plates. This is the one that's the handle side. You can see the groove there, and that pin will ride in that. And that keeps the spool shaft centered as it goes up and down. We're going to go ahead and pull the spool shaft now because we pulled the pin out. We're going to take that cross-wind arm, just clean it up. And I'm going to use a paper towel for that. Same thing with the shaft here. We'll take the shaft and we'll go clean that up as well. So this reel I fully expect to work well once we just do the cleaning, and you can see how simple it is. It's 2 bushings, it's a cross-wind gear hooked right into the main gear, so there's no blocks running up and down. This simply pulls out. And again, this is a matter of just been around a long time without a lot of service and attention, but that doesn't mean it won't go well. So I'm cleaning up this, and I'm also looking at this point about the gear itself. I want to make sure that all of the teeth on the gear are uniform and that they're not chipped or broken, and that seems to be the case here. It seems to be in pretty good stead. I also want to check on the back here. Now this is grease clogged as well. I want to make sure all of the teeth here, the same thing, uniform and clean. If it's not, what's going to happen there is that it won't drive the gear properly. You'll get a wobble in the rotor, and the reel just simply won't perform very well. So you're noticing I'm just using a soft wire brush to clean the channels on those gears. And then here's the pinion gear that belongs to this reel as well. And we want to do the same thing. So just a quick hit with the WD-40 and just a quick clearing of the channels with the wire brush. And then we can just kind of grab the excess of that. There's a little bit of junk inside the reel, so we can use a cotton swab to get that out of the pinion gear. And checking the teeth on this one as well, just to make sure that they're all where they should be and nothing's bent, broken, cracked, or otherwise. And now that we have the frame out here, you can see a little bit more. There's just a little bit more accumulation in there, so one more shot quickly with the WD-40. Let's come in and clean the residual junk off of this. And I have, you saw me squirt a product on the outside of the reel. The product is Purple Power. It's a general degreaser. I don't use that on the inside as much as I use a WD-40. The WD-40 is kind of a penetrating oil, but it's just that it is an oil. It's not a general purpose lubricant. It shouldn't be used for lubricating your reel, but it can be used for cleaning your reel. But Purple Power is a degreaser, so it's going to kind of be the anti-grease, right? It's going to take it apart. You don't want that. Okay, so let's go ahead and reassemble this. I'm going to start with the pinion. I'm going to insert that pinion. Well, let's start with putting a little bit of blue grease on there. The blue grease is a Penn Precision Reel Grease. Any manufacturer's reel grease is going to do. I happen to use Penn because I like the properties of it, but as long as it's designed for fishing reels, go ahead and use it. Doesn't matter that you're using a Penn grease on a Ryobi reel. They all have the properties that you need in terms of the proper lubrication and the ability to keep the hold the lubrication over time. So I'm going to put the rotor on first. I'm going to grab that. You remember the nut we had off there, so we're going to take that and go reassemble that right now. And you want to keep pressure on the rotor down here. I'm sorry, the pinion gear as you put the rotor on, because if not, it'll slip down, and if it slips down, it'll you won't be able to get the full adjustment. Take a quick spin on this one just to make sure it spins nicely, which it does. You can see it spinning there. Doesn't seem to be any slop or play in the reel to speak of, so we're in pretty good stead there. Next up would be the putting the main gear back in. There was a shim that goes on here, so let's go ahead and put the shim on. I'm just looking at my parts basket here. I may have the wrong shim. Nope, I do. That's good. All right, we're going to put a little bit of blue grease on the side of that. Show you my... Folks have always asked me, it seems, why do you use a screwdriver to smear the grease on? It's just something that I've become accustomed to. At one point I was using my fingers. That's not real ingenious because you get it trapped. You notice I wear a protective glove on it, so that wasn't getting it done that way. I've tried brushes. I've tried cotton swabs, things. For whatever reason, they just... they've left hairs in some cases. Things have come apart. I'm just not as comfortable with that as a metal piece here that doesn't leave any residuals on the reel. So we've greased that up pretty good. You don't have to get every tooth in that greased when you do this stuff, because the process of reeling will go ahead and clean that up. Okay, so I got that. We're going to go ahead and put the cross-wind mechanism back in here. That gets followed by the shims to hold that in place, but also to keep it off of the side piece. And one just full in the case there. All right, we'll come out with that. We're going to grab the shaft. And I cleaned that off before, but I'm just going to take a little bit of 4/0 steel wool just to make sure that I've got the stuff that maybe the paper towel didn't get there. And then again, I'm just going to put a light touch of the blue grease onto the shaft there. Once I have that, we're going to reinstall. That goes through the center hole. Then you want to line the pin up there with the hole in the cross-line block. Grab that pin and insert it, and you want to make sure that not only does it go through the shaft, but then when it does go through the shaft, it also goes through the other side of the cross-line block, and that it lands in that groove. And it might be a little bit difficult to see here. So you have a pin into the shaft, into the other side of the cross-lined arm, into the groove. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease back on that in that secondary groove there. And then once we have that, then this side plate will then be able to align properly. We're going to go ahead and put that in. And again, I like to spin it at this point to make sure that it's operating well. It is. So we're going to just put the 3 side plate screws in. And again, we noted on those that they're all the same length, so it doesn't matter which side or which holes these things belong in. These are actually Phillips head. I took them off with a straight bladed screwdriver, but these are Phillips head. You can use either. I happen to have this Phillips head within reach, so we're going to go ahead and put it back with the Phillips head. And then we're almost there from the bottom side of this reel. Actually, we're almost there for all of it. So we saw that the problem on this one was broken line under the rotor, but we also saw that this reel hadn't been serviced in a while, and they kind of go hand in hand, don't they? The owner didn't have a clue what was going on. He never serviced the thing, and he obviously had broken line, and just figured that the reel failed, and it was just, if I can get $5 for the reel, I guess I'm in good stead. And what a shame that is, because this reel is built to last, and it can last a long time. All right, so with that, we're just going to give that a spin here, and all of a sudden we've got a reel that works a whole lot differently, don't we? Okay, so now we're going to put the click rotor back on the shaft. Put the little button on, and then we'll go up top. One more piece of service. You might as well get it all done at once here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just check the drags inside the spool here to make sure they're good. And we start, there's a retention spring that's inside the spool, so we want to grab a pick or a screwdriver or something to get that out. And this is a spring, so be very careful as you take it out, otherwise it's going to shoot. You can see that. Again, right into the parts bucket with that one. And then we should be able to pull the drags out of this one. And in this case, what we have here is just a series of composite drags, which is fine. I'm just checking to make sure that there's lubrication on it. These are wet, so I don't know if that's water or if that's lube. And I do notice that this one, which is the eared washer, has a little bit of pitting on it. So I'm going to grab that steel wool that I had for the other reel, and I'm just going to make sure that we take that off so that it doesn't inhibit the action on the drags, the ability to hold the drag but let the drag spin free when you want. The rest of it seems just to be kind of discoloration. There's probably a little zinc coating or something on it that did that. So while I'm at it, I'm going to just do the other metal pieces just as a preventative, even though these are cleaner. And this is the top one. And you want to pay attention to your drags, because this is the area of the reel that's going to take the greatest brunt of the water. So particularly if you're fishing in salt water with a reel like this, the mist and the water spinning off of the line as you retrieve it is going to land here, and you want to make sure that you keep these clean. You should do this every year. Just clean up your drags, make sure they're well oiled. And I'm just cleaning out the channel now. There was some residual dirt in there, as you can see on the cut and swap. Okay, so easy enough then. So they line up this way. You go with the fabric washer, then a metal washer, then another fabric washer, and then the eared washer that always goes in the middle, and then the cap washer and that retention spring. So let's go ahead and put these back. And these washers just need to be cleaned, but they can be oiled. Just get the grit off of these. And use a real oil. I use Real X just to give the washers a little coating there. The ear washer is in the middle. It rides in those 2 slots. Go up top with this one. Don't worry about the one I didn't get on the bottom. The oil will seep down to that one. And then we'll just put that top one on. Go ahead and reinsert the spring that rides in that groove. And you want to start by getting it into one side of the groove. And again, it's a retention clip, but it is a spring. So you got to use your strength here to get it set. And once you hear a click like that, you know you're set. So here we go. We took a $5 reel that was the subject of an owner not taking care of it. It wound up with some line getting trapped underneath it that led to an overhaul. And now this one's, this needs to be cleaned. I'm not going to take time on the video to go ahead and clean it, but look at that performance now. It's a beautiful little reel. It's not a complicated reel. There are no bearings. They're all bushings. but I gotta lube that bail too, it gets, all right, I'll go ahead and get that bail lubed up there. And it's also bent, I noticed that, so we'll go ahead and take care of that while we're at it. And this can usually just be rebent, it's simple enough. Just get a little bit of the tension out. And sometimes it's as simple as just WD-40 again, just to lube it up. Make sure that it trips well. There you go, now we're working fine again. Oops. That's all we wanted to see, that we got it going the way we should be getting it going. This is it's going to be quite a reel. So a $5 fine, I'm ready to take this one out and cast around with, put some line on it, take it out and go see how it does. They've always been favorites of mine. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something out of it. If you've not learned nothing else, you should learn not to be afraid to take reels apart and play with them. Buy them as project reels. For $5, it's a worthwhile investment to see what's going on there. And this one can be put into service. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more of these, please subscribe. Again, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.